We continue to watch the system in the Caribbean this evening. Hello, I'm Mike Nasa with the latest on what is still a potential tropical storm. We have not yet found a closed low-level center, but it's looking interesting this evening right along the northern coastline of South America. Look at this beautiful satellite loop the last few days. You can see at the beginning of this loop right in here, it was a very well-organized tropical wave, and then we put out watches and warnings. We saw it move west. We've seen it move west-northwest, and now it is over areas of northern Venezuela, headed for Colombia, and it is still not yet a tropical storm. We also have our system in the Gulf of Mexico, which almost came alive today, but not quite. We're going to talk about all these features. First and foremost, here's the latest on our potential tropical cyclone number 2. Still just a potential tropical cyclone. Whatever center they think there is as of 8 p.m. Atlantic time, which is also Eastern time, by the way, was at 11.9 north, 69.7 west, racing to the west at 21. Straight west, we have dominant high pressure built into the north, which is going to keep that motion over the next several days. And the winds are still 40 miles an hour, a very high pressure up there, about 1,008, 1,009 millibars. So it is a weak storm with tropical storm winds, but it is not yet a tropical cyclone because it does not have a closed low-level circulation at the surface. It's a tropical wave with tropical storm winds, in other words. However, it is still expected to become a tropical storm at any time, and we do have watches and warnings out. We have a hurricane watch for Nicaragua, Costa Rica border, all the way down to Laguna de Perlas, Nicaragua, and that's with the expectation that this could still become a hurricane by the time Friday night, Saturday rolls along, and we get it into Central America. We also have a tropical storm warning in effect for Curacao, Aruba, and the coast of Venezuela from Peninsula de Paraguana westward to the Colombian-Venezuela border, including the Gulf of Venezuela, the coast of Colombia, from Colombia-Venezuela border westward to Santa Marta, and a tropical storm warning from Limon, Costa Rica, north to the Costa Rican-Nicaraguan border, north of Laguna de Perales to Sandy Bay, Serpi, Nicaragua. So, a lot of watches and warnings for a lot of areas. This is still expected to become a tropical storm at any time, and then probably at least close to, if not a hurricane, by the time it makes landfall there in the areas way down here near Nicaragua and Costa Rica sometime Friday night and Saturday. Again, even if it doesn't become a hurricane, gusty winds, heavy rain, and a nasty day at the beach, no doubt. Now, when we take a look at the satellite imagery, there's a few things I want to point out here. First of all, where the hurricane center says whatever center there is, quote-unquote, they're saying it's about 55 miles west-southwest of Curacao. That's as of 8 p.m. Wednesday night. So west-southwest of Curacao, that would be the ABC Islands. You have Aruba over here, you have Bonaire over to the right, and then you have Curacao here in the middle. So 55 miles west-southwest of Curacao would be somewhere in here. Now, what I see looks like a puff of smoke. It doesn't look well organized at all. However, this little popcorn kernel here could explode over these hot waters. So don't be fooled right now by its disorganization. The ironic thing is that it's probably closer to become a tropical storm than it ever has been, and it looks uglier than it has in days. Nevertheless, here's the coastline of Colombia and Venezuela, and you can see our system there sliding right along the north coast. Here's the radar out of areas there. You can see the ABC Islands. Some rainfall over Aruba and areas there of northern Venezuela, well away from Caracas, and you're talking way down there. This system bringing gusty winds. It did rain Trinidad, Tobago, the southern windwards yesterday as it blew on through. But once this popcorn thunderstorm, if you want to call it that, gets over the hot waters, it should slow down just a tad and organize itself into a tropical cyclone. There's another look at the radar imagery, and you can see a lot of heavy rainfall there offshore, so definitely not a good night for anybody who'd be on a boat out there. Rough seas, no doubt. Now, here's the infrared satellite imagery, and you can see what I'm talking about. It definitely has that wave shape. It is not well organized right now, and that's why it still has not closed off a center. The NOAA plane, the aircrafts were zigzagging around trying to find it. We had some crappy little west wind of 15 knots on one of the ABC Islands, but that's not enough of a west wind to close off a center. So it's really close. Like the Hurricane Center says, it could become one at any time. And I'm thinking this is going to consolidate here. It'll move away from land, get that fetch of moisture here, and develop and become a tropical storm very quickly, and then get to a hurricane status or close to it by landfall. But again, it is taking its good old time here. Still some residual rainfall here behind whatever center there is, and that is impacting areas there of Trinidad, Tobago, even further north in areas of the Windward Islands there. Wind shear, not a problem. Look at this beautiful little anticyclone, this high pressure in the upper levels that it has over the top of it. Very favorable, very scary. It's June 29th. If we have this favorable of conditions right now, just wait until August and September. That's when things really get cooking. Again, you can see the models are in good agreement that it's going to fool around here over areas of Colombia, but then once it comes out, it does have, as I mentioned a few days ago, between 75 west and 85 west, it has this area here of very hot waters and very favorable wind shear to develop. And so we're going to watch that very, very carefully. This is the HWRF model. You can see it brings it close to hurricane strength, but the intensity has backed off. The GFS, the European, the Canadian, the HWRF, a lot of them are not making it a hurricane. So maybe this won't become a hurricane, but we think it's going to be close enough to warrant those hurricane watches, as I mentioned earlier, from the Nicaragua-Costa Rican border to areas further north. But again, this should move straight into Nicaragua, and it looks like, based on those computer model guidance, by the way, it does appear that this system is going to move into the Pacific, and it could retain a name. So if it becomes Bonnie and then maintains its circulation, which it has yet to develop, of course, then it would remain Bonnie, I believe. That's the naming policy they implemented. It used to get a new name. So in 96, when Hurricane Caesar hit Costa Rica in July of 96, it moved into the Pacific, and it got the next name on the Pacific list, which was Douglas. So it was known as Hurricane Caesar Douglas. I don't know. The point is, if this becomes Bonnie, it'll probably stay Bonnie into the Pacific, which would be interesting to watch. It could actually get a lot stronger out over these open Pacific waters because it would have more time than it will in the Atlantic. But we're still going to watch that very carefully. The key messages for this: number one, heavy rainfall, the ABC Islands, northern Venezuela, northeast Colombia through Thursday, and then Nicaragua and Costa Rica by Friday. Flash flooding is expected, along with the potential for mudslides, so please take action if you're in these areas. Don't be swept away. Number two, the winds to tropical storm force impacting the ABC Islands for another few hours, and then that's going to be the north coast of Venezuela, the northeast coast of Colombia early tomorrow, and then hurricane conditions possible in that hurricane watch area in Nicaragua late Friday, and tropical storm watches possible by Friday afternoon. By the way, here's the graphics for Spanish-speaking residents down there, areas of Latin America, in case you want to read that. Now we have our other system, and you can see it's very close to the Texas coastline. This was another Invest 95L. Remember, they go from 90 to 99, and they're called L in the Atlantic. So 90L, 91L. We had 94 down in the Caribbean. This was 95. Almost became a tropical depression today. Here's the ironic thing, okay? The aircraft flies out there, zigzags around, and finds a closed low-level circulation, okay? But it is so ragged, so naked, so disorganized that you can't call it a tropical depression. And the winds wouldn't even be higher than tropical depression strength, certainly not a tropical storm. The ironic thing is our system down in the Caribbean has had tropical storm winds for days and has looked great, but has never had a low-level center. So this is how weather works. It's crazy. But you can see this is very naked and drying up here. Look at the convection. Very, very meager. Not well organized at all. It's still over water, though. If it blows up over a center, it could still become a tropical depression. Right now, the National Hurricane Center is giving it about a 40% chance for development. So we're going to watch that. Look at the radar there out of Houston. Not looking like much at all. There's some offshore squalliness. Really a little bit of rain moving through Beaumont, Port Arthur, north of Lake Charles, and areas there of Lafayette, New Iberia, Alexandria. You guys might have a wet night, but other than that, it's really not showing much. So that'll do it for the tropics. We're going to continue to watch our system here right along the area here of northern Venezuela and northern Colombia. It moved through the ABC Islands tonight. It moved through the Windward Islands yesterday. It looks like it took a track straight like this, and it should maintain that towards Nicaragua. Hurricane watches are out. We're going to watch it very carefully. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, and I'll be with you next time as we watch the system in the Caribbean.